Hello, welcome to Inside the Birds post-game live. I'm Geoff Mosher with Adam Caplan. The Philadelphia Eagles exercise a demon against Dallas. They snap a 6-game losing streak at AT&T Stadium in a 34-6 blowout of the sad sack Cowboys. The Eagles overcome a shaky first quarter and a couple of turnovers on their first 5 possessions to win their 5th straight game. It was a clinical win, Adam. But it was a critical win as well, because now the Eagles take the driver's seat in the NFC East with this latest win that gets them to 7-2.
Yeah, this is a quality win on the road. And Nick Sirianni, this is incredible. In the regular season, he's 22-9 as Eagles head coach. On the road, that's unbelievably impressive. It's almost hard to believe, but it's true. For all these people want to get rid of the guy. I mean, they went on the road. They're prepared. They're really prepared, by the way. You got to feel pretty good about this football team right now. I know their schedule's been cake. I get it. You play who's on your schedule. We're going to learn a lot more about this team on Thursday. But it's a quality win. You mentioned the first time in 7 years they won in Big D. The Cowboys, this is an unbelievably damning stat. They've lost 5 in a row at home, including their playoff blowout loss against the Packers. Over those 5 games, they've given up 201 points, over 40 points per game. Wow.
I mean, they're miserable. I mean, think about the fact that they have 10 turnovers in their last 2 home games. That's a lot to begin with. And today, the Eagles produced 5 of them. So you've turned the ball over 5 times a piece in your last 2 games. You're not going to win any football games playing that poorly. The Eagles came in. And Adam, I give Mike Zimmer some credit for at least trying to have a plan to try to disrupt the Eagles offense a little bit. It worked for a little while, but we'll talk about the Eagles defense in a little bit and Mike McCarthy. I'm kind of we had this conversation in the pregame show, and Greg Cosell hit it right on the head, because I said, if I'm Mike McCarthy, I'm trying to spend all week thinking about a wrinkle. I know I'm undermanned. I know my quarterback hasn't started in 2 years. I have to figure out a way to hit the Eagles where it hurts, put my offense in some kind of position to win when I'm not running the ball well. I don't have a great offensive line. I have a backup quarterback. And Greg goes, well, Mike McCarthy's not really that kind of guy. And you know what? Literally, Mike McCarthy went out there and said, let's just run our offense the way we run and see what we can do. I mean, I'm watching it unfold, and I'm like, what is this guy thinking?
I could tell CeeDee Lamb's body language was so bad. Aggravated. It's really bad. So what I would have done is we didn't mention this on the pregame show, but I remember thinking about it, and we just didn't have any time. But I thought they put Trey Lance in early, sort of like the Trey Lance package, like the Steelers had Justin Fields not suffer the hamstring injury earlier this season, they would have put him in certain situations in the red zone, or just try something else. So what they did is they did it, but it was too late. They were getting blown out. So they put Lance in for a play. He runs 1 play for 4 yards. They take him out, put Cooper Rush, who was abominable today. He was terrible. How do you complete 13 passes for 45 yards? Is that not impossible?
I thought it was impossible until this game, Adam.
Yeah, exactly right. It was just embarrassing. Look, we'll get to the defense later. They were incredibly impressive. I got some thoughts on that, but look, it's one of these situations. You mentioned it at the top here. It looked rocky early. They looked bad on offense early. Hurts needed to settle down.
Yeah,
he was breaking himself down. He wasn't seeing the field, downfield well. In fact, for these people who keep bringing this up, usually we dismiss this stuff about he can't see over his line or whatever, because we've asked other teams and they've kind of dismissed it. But today it sure seemed like he couldn't see over the line or something, because he kept like looking down and staying inside and not trying to run early. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Get rid of the football. You're taking sacks. They had 5 sacks they gave up early. It was the first time the Cowboys have done that in years, to get 5 sacks in the first half. But then he settled down, hit some passes. They protected him, and they got the job done. In the end, again, they blew him out, and that's pretty important. But, Hurts, hey, he had 4 touchdowns. Pretty good. He did have 2 turnovers, a pick and a fumble. But overall, they moved the football when they needed to, made some plays. And I think the other thing is it's really hard when you play a team like this. The score doesn't show it. They played down to the Cowboys in the first quarter. It was like, what the hell are they doing?
Right.
But then they settled down, got protection, and Jalen also made some superhuman plays, quite frankly. Really did.
Yes, yeah. I mean, he avoided a free rusher on a third down and
Yep.
climbed the pocket and did a great job getting, I think, a touchdown on that. And he did have some good runs. He had some great throws too. Yeah, it was to me, it was shaking off what the Cowboys were doing early on. I also think the sun spots
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
certain part of the field impacted both quarterbacks, not just Jalen, both
Maybe
offense.
so. Maybe so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could have been that. So we'll see what the Eagles say about it. But in general, my biggest takeaway is the best thing that could have happened was a blowout like this, where the Eagles could get their starters out, almost all of them, and then really prepare for what's going to be just a huge. I mean, think about the Eagles getting a blowout on the road and being able to rest starters in the fourth quarter versus Washington, which goes right down to the wire against the Steelers in a tough game. You're looking for any small advantage you can get. Well, there you go. Nobody got hurt in the fourth quarter for you. You got a little extra rest, and then you get to come to work tomorrow. Just with that slightly bit, I know they're gonna land really late, and that doesn't benefit them. But hey, whenever you can get your stars out of the game, get them rested and get them mentally prepared for the next showdown, which is going to be big, that's always a bonus.
Yeah, I was talking to John T. Filippo, the former quarterbacks coach for the Eagles, earlier today, and he said what he would do. On Monday, all you're doing is you're going over tape and you're having a very light walkthrough. You can't do anything because they just played, and as you mentioned, they flew home. He said Tuesday, he said he would probably more have a jog through because he doesn't want them. Yes, they have to play Thursday, and it is at home. They did have to fly back, but you want to get the juices flowing again. You want to get some energy and get ready for the game, and you don't want to just go through the motions. But he also understands, like, you're in a short week, and as a coach, you have to be very cognizant of who needs to be, who can't really work a lot. Like Barkley's clearly beaten up a little bit. He hurt the left arm, missed a bunch of plays, came back, and what they did is they kept subbing him, putting game lines, bringing him out, and then finally the fourth quarter he didn't play, which is a good thing. But you got to be aware of who needs help, and we'll see if Slay tweaked his ankle, so we'll see what happens for Thursday. And remember, he just came off the groin injury. He hurt his foot earlier this season, so he's gone through some stuff. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is they are on a short week. They got to get see who's going to need a little bit of time down. And Jalen got hit a lot. He got hit a lot. It was the 5 sacks. He ran the ball well. No, again, he really looked good. And so much for that phantom ankle injury, by the way.
Well, do you remember when I said in the pregame, it seems like whenever Jalen has some kind of lower leg injury, he actually looks more explosive, and
yeah.
certainly looked fine today.
He looked pretty good today. Yeah. And by the way, you could, like, he did that Wednesday practice. He did work some.
Right.
And he seemed to have, what we understand, tweaked his ankle. And he left. He just didn't take all the reps. And then the rest of the week, he took all his reps. So he's fine. So that was not an issue. And, it's funny, when I texted you, I'm like, man, they need to take everybody out. Literally, like 2 minutes later, they did. Except Cooper DeJean on that punt. Why the hell was he returning punts?
I have no idea. Vic Fangio, who already doesn't want him returning punts.
Yeah,
probably going up to Nick after the game, be like, can we use Nia Smith there? Do we really need
That's
to have
it.
Cooper returning that punt? I mean,
that was dumb.
Anybody.
Nick has got to be more aware. That's on Nick. God forbid someone got hurt. Yeah, you want to. And the coaches will tell you, look, we can't pull 22 starters. It's hard to. Sometimes you have to keep guys in. It's hard to say. But the bottom line is they got the job done, and it is at Dallas. It's a divisional foe. Dallas is just a S show. We'll try to be nice here, not curse. That's for another show. But they got the job done. The good thing is they cleaned up their issues in the first quarter as the game went along. That was very important.
I agree. And, stepping outside the reporter element, because, we think like reporters, but for a team to break such a long losing streak against their hated rival at a certain venue, I'm sure the fans ate this up. They don't care that Dallas sucks. All they care is about that the team they hate the most, their team, just went and kicked that team's ass in their house and embarrassed them, frankly. I mean, some of the I felt like when the camera would pan on some of the Dallas fans, I'd be like, oh, God.
Yeah, it's funny. I got to tell you, it's so funny because all the futility the Eagles have had at the damn stadium, AT&T, and some of the games that got squashed, yeah. I just felt once they started blowing them out, this seemed like one of the two of the games there where they got blown out, where they didn't have some of their starters, the Eagles. Well, the exact opposite. All of a sudden, all those Eagles were on the injury report play this week. And I honestly, I felt that they left some points on the board there. There were clearly some plays they could have scored. They could have had more big plays, but you take it. They smoked them, and they'll move on. I want to get the defense in a couple minutes here. I got a lot of thoughts on that. But
Yeah.
by the way, it was Jahan Dotson again on a big play. I do want to mention that was a great throw and really a great play. It's 2 weeks in a row with a big play for him.
Yeah, I thought that was when you throw a back shoulder to a guy, that's a trust throw. And for as long as we talked about Jalen not trusting this guy, and then last week, Jahan Dotson makes an unbelievable contested catch with a little, a bobble at the end, and then to throw him a back shoulder in that one-on-one situation there showed that he trusted him. So it's nice. It's nice to see the trust forming between Jalen and Calcaterra, and then Jalen and Jahan Dotson, because these guys aren't going to play like vital roles as far as volume, but every once in a while now they're going to be called upon in a situation to catch a ball that's important, right? And if they can do that, that sort of, they had this a couple of years ago with Quez, but they still couldn't totally trust Quez in big moments. He had a decent number of catches for a number 3 receiver. This is the year they went to the Super Bowl, but obviously in the Super Bowl, he did not come up with a really important pass that could have changed that way that game ended up. And so you would like, if it, as they keep going and winning here, I'm not getting Super Bowl, but in big games, those guys will have to make a couple of important plays, and you're starting to see it now.
Yeah, and the thing is, they finished well offensively, which I thought was really, really important. Barkley had some good runs later in the game. That got done. You just mentioned they got production from somebody else other than the big three. Quite frankly, they didn't need the big three after a certain period of time. It just didn't matter. Dallas was they looked like an expansion team. They're so bad. They kind of gave up. Their energy was out. I mean, their best player is their kicker. Aubrey's amazing. He's the best kicker in the National Football League. It's pretty bad when your best player is your kicker. That's not a good thing. So they're an ass show. Eagles took advantage of it. It's good to see for Eagle fans loving this. Is they hated Cowboys. I grew up in this area, so although I'm not a fan of a team, it makes me laugh because all the S talking the Cowboys have done over the years at home when they smoked the Eagles there. Now they got theirs.
Yeah. By the way, do you notice that with Saquon Barkley, he doesn't catch the ball a whole lot, but when he does, it's always something really significant. Like today, he only had the 12-yard catch, but if you remember that 12-yard catch, it was almost like a quick swing to the left, lateral. He got a couple of yards. Then he ran through 3 defenders to get the first down. I believe that was on their first touchdown drive, if I'm not mistaken. But the point is, we want them to throw to the running back a little more, and he is. I mean, because he has become a touchdown presence through the air, Saquon Barkley, because every once in a while he gives you a really nice catch that can be a touchdown. But even on the dump offs, he's just making things happen.
He is, in fact,
3rd and 6, by the way, a 3rd and 6 that they dumped it off to Barkley.
Well, that was a 3rd and 6. Okay, it's good.
Yeah.
There was another play in the first half where Hurts looked right and Barkley was wide open. I believe he took a sack on the play, or it was an incomplete. I don't remember, but I just remember thinking, okay, there's Barkley in the flat again. That was the problem in the first half, is that their timing was off headed into the second quarter. It's not good when Hurts gets every 4 dropbacks, he's getting sacked. Like that can't happen.
Right.
But as the game went along, they started cleaning it up and the protection was really, really good. Again, Hurts took some of them on his own, but they'll get that cleaned up as best as possible. In terms of tape study, unfortunately, practice-wise, all you do is you go through the tape tomorrow. It's a short run, and then you move on to Washington in the afternoon, probably, and they'll go through their walkthrough. Mm-hmm. So they don't have a lot of time here. It's a short week. Washington, by the way, will take a train over to Philly. So that's kind of what both teams are on here. It's NFC East again with the Commandos.
There you go. Last thing on the offense, and really it's just Dallas's defense. I was a little surprised. First of all, Micah Parsons, man, is a superhuman. I mean, he comes back from a high ankle sprain and he looked as fast and as high motor as he ever did. I like that Mike Zimmer threw caution to the wind and said, we're going to come after Jalen Hurts. We're going to make him try to, we're going to give one-on-ones, but we're going to come after him. But usually the tape will show that Hurts is very good against the blitz. What you want to do is maybe come after him with one extra guy and then try to keep him in the pocket and then run some games in the middle, like looping and twisting so that your interior linemen are still protecting the middle so he can't run through it. And to me, I thought Dallas was interestingly aggressive, but almost too aggressive. They just left too many one-on-ones. And even though you're trading, getting some sacks and turnovers early, you were giving up big plays. But it really hurt them more that when Dallas did get possession of the ball, they just couldn't do anything with it, and they turned the ball over too.
All right, here's what happened. Overshown, they had Overshown. Look at my notes here. They had Overshown as an add-in blitzer. It worked. Hurts didn't see it. He's got to see it pre-snap. This is something that this is what happened last year when Jalen struggled. He didn't see the guys creeping up. He's got to see that. He also has to drop. He's got to use his outlet. That's what there's a hot receiver in every single play, every single drop back. You got to get rid of the football. That was the problem in the first quarter where I don't know what the hell he was doing. You just need to settle down and take what's there. Just take what's there. Get rid of the football. But then again, second quarter on, he started to relax a little bit, hung in there. Protection was good, and he delivered. But I give Zimmer credit, as you were talking about, just add the Overshown stuff. That guy is fast. He's one of the smallest linebackers from a weight standpoint, but he is fast.
Yeah, right out of Texas. They have some really good athletes that have been coming out of there over the last few years. Yeah, so that's it for the Eagles offense. Defense, obviously, we mentioned that they produced 5 turnovers. Now, some of that was just Dallas being awful, but if you're going to find a couple of things to say, this was not opponent specific. I thought Zach Bond again played really well. I think he had 2 forced fumbles, including the one that caused Zeke to fumble out of the end zone, which was a pivotal play there. I mean, Dallas was, again, they were putting pressure on heating up Jalen Hurts. They were getting the possession deep in Eagles territory. If they go in and score a touchdown there, do I think the game is totally different? No. But at least you put a little pressure on the Eagles, which they didn't really face as far as, I don't think they ever trailed in the game and, it started to get away from them. But, between that and then Dallas not going for it on 4th down when they had a chance, and you could see, as you mentioned, CeeDee Lamb's face on that decision. But Zach Bond played really well, and that's always good to see. I mean, he has really gotten better and better as the weeks go on.
Key and diagnose. He is the epitome of that. That should be his nickname. He's unbelievable. This is one of Howie's best linebacker signings in his career. I would say that I'm just trying to think of the off-the-ball linebackers they've signed.
Like a free agent signing, huh? Oh, man.
The guy they got from Buffalo, who was on the Super Bowl team. What was his name? I'm drawing a blank right now.
On the Super Bowl? Oh, Nigel Bradham. That was a good signing.
Yeah, he was good. He was good. But he was great. He didn't do this. What's that?
He was very, very good the Super Bowl year. Yep.
But this guy, Bond, is at another level. He's doing everything.
Right.
It's kind of amazing. I'm kind of in awe of it, to be honest with you. It's definitely one of those you can never believe. He's going to make $3.5 million this season. That's what the cash guarantee was. He's playing at a 12 to 14 million level. To be honest with you, we'll see if it continues. Gardner Johnson. Now that's 3 picks in 2 games against the Cooper Rush. It's pretty amazing. Carter showed up today, had several big plays. That was good to see. DeJean's all over it. He's playing mostly in the box. I got to ask Greg if he thinks he's playing the Malcolm Jenkins role. But he's doing a lot of stuff that Jenkins did.
DeJean
blow plays up. Yeah, DeJean.
Well, I mean, you're always in the box as a slot corner.
But he's not really playing he's not playing a typical slot role. It's actually much different. Yes, he's playing inside, but he's an add-in defender against the run. They're using him differently than they use Maddox. It's really interesting. I didn't know this was going to happen. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's fair. It looks like they do run blitz him when they smell the run coming. Yeah,
absolutely. A lot of different stuff with him. Now they'll expand it in future years. But when I say that, they have to make a decision what his role is going to be. I'll tell you what, he's so good with this. I don't care that they looked at him that they wanted to try him out at outside corner. I think you got to junk that. He's really good. And the other thing I would do is when Covey comes back, please move DeJean back. Do not let DeJean return punts. I know he had another great one today.
Mm-hmm.
Don't risk it, man. I would not do it.
Yeah, Vic has been outspoken on that. He'd like somebody else to be returning punts, and you can understand why. He's so valuable right now to what he's doing defensively. How about the basketball footage when he was a high school player in Iowa?
Yeah, he's a freak athlete, man.
Yeah, the alley-oop dunks, we already knew he was a freak athlete and do that, but there were a couple where he was just posting up somebody and then turning around dunking. Like, he's not 6'7". He's what, 6'1", 6'2"?
Was
Like,
that
that's pretty impressive.
he's under 6'1"? Was that a 9-foot basket? I don't know.
That's what I was wondering. I'm like, damn, all right.
No, I thought that was me and my Nerf hoop, man, back in the day for those of you older 40. But look, this is their defense. See, the thing is that Dallas is so inept, and they had a quarterback who can't move, who's basically looked like he had lead feet in Cooper Rush. They dominated. Again, their defense is playing at such a high level. Now they got Jaden Daniels, who's playing very well. We'll find out what their tape looked like against Pittsburgh, which, by the way, has got a great defense, a top 3 defense. Mm-hmm. But the way that they're playing, man, the discipline and the communication, we've been talking about for several weeks now. Their communication's terrific. This is right now they're playing elite. They're playing elite defense, but you also have to take into account who they've been playing.
Yeah.
The one team that can move the football, the Bengals, after those first 2 drives, they kicked their ass.
Yeah, they absolutely did. It was it's been an impressive display of defense for a few weeks now. Like you mentioned on Thursday, it's going to get a little different, and we'll see, because Washington has moved the ball really well, really efficiently, by the way. Washington doesn't have a ton of explosive playmakers outside of Terry McLaurin, but the quarterback, who I don't think ran a whole lot. If I check, I don't even think he ran a whole lot against Washington, if I'm not mistaken.
Who are you talking about?
5 rushing yards. The Daniels only had 5 rushing yards against Washington, and they still put up 27 points. They just get really good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, against Pittsburgh. They get really good production from solid veterans. Noah Brown gets 3 catches. Zach Ertz will get 3 to 5. Zacchaeus will give you a catch here, a catch there. And unfortunately for him, he muffed a punt, and he's probably thinking about that because they may win that game if he doesn't muff that punt. But either way, they're a Eckler goes in there, and McNichols when they don't have Robinson. They're a well-balanced offense. So really will be a good test for this Eagles defense on their patience. You're going to give up some plays. You're going to give up some yards. Can you force some turnovers? I think that'll be a huge part of Thursday night's game, because it doesn't look like Washington in general turns the ball over a whole lot.
No, and Daniels is really good with his feet, and he makes really good decisions. He processes really well for rookie. He sees it. He's there, they tell me, at 5:30 in the morning every day, right when the coaches get there. Sometimes he beats the coaches there. He's played really well, but the good thing is, and we saw this against Pittsburgh, they got one guy who dominates. That's McLaurin. He's scary. Terry, he's phenomenal. Yep. You just mentioned a bunch of those other guys. You're not worried about any of those other guys at all. They're non-factors. It's shut down McLaurin, and you shut down.
They're non-factors. They move the chains very well. You're not worried about
it, but what it is he's really but good. You're not. But from a game planning standpoint, you're not worried about those guys at all. You're worried about McLaurin. Like you'll live with. You talk to any coach, they'll be happy. You want Ertz to catch it, go ahead. And unfortunately, Zach had that tough play on the 4th down. He came 2 inches from extending it. It's too bad. But you're just not worried about those other guys. You're worried about McLaurin.
True.
Really worried about him.
Because they're not necessarily explosive. You're right. But they do a good job of controlling.
Let those other guys beat you. Go ahead. You're not worried about that.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one. A.J. Brown, big game. Devontae Smith, we usually see this when he doesn't have a big game, then he comes and erupts. Now, it's not like Devontae Smith wasn't targeted or wasn't held in check. It just, you're getting so much one-on-one, you throw it up, A.J. Brown catches a bunch of balls. That's how it goes. And then there were a couple of times I thought Smith, there was an underthrown ball to Smith that hit off. That was a rough one. And they were a little grabby with him as well. Got away with a few, but in the end, blowout win. No big deal there. Jalen Carter. I wanted to bring him up. Thought he was very disruptive. We've talked about, can he play more games like that Saints game every once in a while? Now, the way that Dallas offense was, you weren't going to get that kind of game, but he got his hands on some balls of scrimmage. He had some big run stops. He had some big. He had a couple of pressures that were important. So I thought he did what he was supposed to do in that game.
He's more consistent. He really is playing consistent football. It's not the flash player. Then the next game you don't see him. We're not getting that. The run defense, by the way, they're tackling. Another thing, their tackling is really good. I don't know what the hell happened to start the season. It's typical. Bill Polian, the Hall of Fame general manager, told us that years ago that it takes a good 4 to 6 weeks for teams, because they don't really tackle in training camp, to get it righted. And they sure as hell have gotten it righted.
Yep.
They're just playing really good team defense. I'm so impressed. After a rough start, or I would say consistency overall with their defense, Vic got it going. It really started in that Saints game, and other than the Bucks game where obviously they were without players and they willed it with the Heat, they've gotten themselves together and they've gotten steadily better. As I mentioned earlier, the communication's great. They're having a lot of fun. The energy's great. We're seeing the coaching. We have a real coaching staff here in Philly. Last year, you had the JV staff of younger guys, college guys. That was a mistake.
You're being kind by calling it a JV.
It was bad. It was just embarrassing.
Yeah.
And now you got a real staff here with veteran coaches. This is another thing. And they're disciplined. That's another thing. It's just it's all working out. Look, the pass rush, it was good today. Don't let the only 3 sacks fool you. That they were disciplined. They didn't have to blitz. It's another thing. I thought they played coverage. It seemed like they were doing that pretty well.
Yeah.
Because that's all you need to do. Cooper Rush can't move.
Yeah, they had a few Sims in there. I mean, they were keeping.
I saw Sims. Yeah, they do those every game. They're the kings of Sims and a couple couple other things, but they're not a blitzing team. We know that for the most part. So overall, look, this is a dominant game. It's kind of what we expected. I love when you said in the Thursday show. Was it the Thursday show or the game preview show with Greg, where you're like, if they're beating them badly, will they try to rub it in? And I was like, yeah, like Buddy Ryan did with the fake kneel down.
Yeah.
They didn't do that. Yeah,
no. And I'm wondering, like, why is Dallas calling a timeout in the fourth quarter? What are they doing? You know?
Yeah, that was ridiculous. And we're both like, can you let the damn clock run?
Yeah, can you stay in bounds, please? You know, Trey Lance, we're running out of bounds. Like, come on.
What a nice show. Go ahead.
A development I wanted to get into, which we will probably get into a little bit more this week, but technically, Jordan Mailata is eligible from he missed his 4 games from IR.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder if the Thursday night game makes it difficult for them to activate him into the 21-day window.
It would be not impossible, but I'll give you this actually happened today, although he's not playing. The Texans surprisingly activated Nico Collins on Thursday to the 21-day window. They took him off IR on Friday, but they didn't play him tonight. They didn't have him active. Now, maybe something happened in the walkthrough, the Saturday walkthrough, because that's why the hell would you take him off IR and create a roster spot if you're not going to use him? That's stupid.
Right.
So I guess something must have happened, which can happen. A guy could be tight. It's a hamstring. You never know. It could be tight.
They had extra time, though, with Nico, because didn't they play the Thursday night game prior against the Jets?
Yeah, but again, he only got 1 day of practice this past Friday. Friday practice for Sunday games are very light,
right?
And he only had the Saturday walkthrough and the pregame warm up. But they made a decision before pregame warm up. It sounds like they were not going to play him. I don't know why. I just thought it was odd. Why the hell would you have him? Why would you put him on the 53? You don't need to. You just put him in the 53. I don't know. I thought that was odd.
I just think it's tough to get an idea of how ready Jordan Mailata is when you're not going to have full
that. Yes,
you've only got
So on that one, right? On that one, all you would have would be tomorrow, and that they're not doing anything tomorrow. Tuesday is their long walkthrough. That's when you go over the entire game plan, and Wednesday is when you finalize it. It's quick. It's very quick. You just go over your base plays and a couple of things. That's it. Yeah, I agree with you. I can't. I'd be very surprised. You never say never with these things, but why would you do it when he never gets a real practice? And I would think it's unprecedented. I don't remember in a regular season game a guy playing without going for real practice. Like maybe there is, but I just don't know of one.
Yeah, and especially a lineman, right, who had a hamstring injury. Like maybe there's a position player who's done it, but yeah, I wouldn't know about an offensive lineman doing it. Yeah. And then last thing, I'm curious to see the snap counts. I saw Jalix Hunt out there quite a bit.
Second quarter.
Yeah, I wonder if he was out there more again than Bryce Huff, or I don't know if that would be again. I don't know if he's actually played more snaps than Huff yet in a game.
Yeah,
but it certainly is interesting to be. By the way, I was going to make a joke about how bad the Eagles' pass rush was. They only got 1 sack, which is not. I mean, their pass rush was fine.
They had 3. They had 3.
Well, they had 3 sacks.
Oh yeah. In fact, not only did they have 3, Hunt had.
Agent came on land, so I'm not counting.
Agent Zero had 1, and because it's funny, they got their first sack. I'm like, wait, is that Bryce Huff? It is.
Yeah, I should say 1 sack against the starting quarter. I'm not counting the 2 against the running quarter.
Yeah, okay.
But I was going to make a joke, that the pass rush was terrible, but it was not. But it was interesting to see Jalix out there, and you wonder as the weeks go by here, is Jalix going to get more time? Certainly, your pass rush is going to be very, very important on Thursday night.
Well, with Jaden Daniels' ability to move, man, he's a good vision runner when he carries it.
Yes.
And I could tell you for a fact, talking to coaches of work with Cliff Kingsbury, he likes his quarterbacks to run inside the red zone. He'll design stuff for him, so that's coming. Their offense is overachieved. Now, Brian Robbins has not played the last 2 games due to hamstring injury. We don't know that he'll play this week.
Right.
He pulled up tight in pregame warmups 2 weeks ago, and he was limited this past week. Eckler's just not a starter running back anymore. That helps you.
Mm-hmm.
He did well. He scored short yardage, but overall, it's just a starter. Like, that's a major downgrade from Brian Robinson at this point.
Yeah.
So that's another advantage the Eagles have.
All right, last thing. Any concern on your end on the fact that Darius Slay was kind of in and out, and
Yep.
Rodgers goes in? Yeah, I was wondering what at one point you're winning. Like if you wanted to rest him, just take him out and let Isaiah Rodgers handle it. But then he went back in.
He did. I know. I would say this. The good thing is, and I know it's limited time, but Rodgers has shown that he's a pretty good backup.
Mm-hmm.
You want your backup. This is the way it's explained to us for years. If your backup has to go in for 3 to 4 games, hold his own, don't hurt the football team. They understand 6, 8 games, 10 games, that's a lot to ask for a backup. Then that's more than you would want to ask. But Rodgers has shown to be very capable. He really is. He really has been. And they're in much better hands than last year, which was a disaster, quite frankly, with their backups. And, Ringo had the improvement in the offseason. Training camp wasn't great for him, but at least showed he could be a 4th corner. That's good. He's got length. I think they're in pretty good shape there at cornerback. Let's quite frankly, Slade may not be the player he once was, but he's still fine. He's solid. Not great, but he's solid.
That's right. All right. The last time the Eagles won a game at AT&T Stadium was the same season they went to the Super Bowl. They won. I should say they won the Super Bowl. So good vibes here as the Eagles really just pummel the Dallas Cowboys 34-6 in a win that just has to make every Eagles fan feel giddy all over, because it's very rare that the Eagles go down there and do that to the Cowboys.
By the way, what was the score, without looking, of the game they pummeled the Cowboys?
It was probably close to 34-6, although I think Dallas might have scored a few more points in that game.
37-9.
Yeah. Wow. How
That's
about
funny.
that? How about that? So can history repeat? Will the Eagles continue to get themselves back on track and then eventually end up in the Super Bowl? We shall see. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds Post-Game Live. We have a huge week coming up on the Inside the Birds platform. Of course, Q&A will be out, and Gun on One with Derek Gunn, and of course, a lot of Inside the Birds pregame show. Greg Cosell will do Inside the Tape, and of course, he'll do Ask Greg Cosell for our Patreon members. And if you want to get involved in that, you should, because you can talk directly to Greg Cosell, and that's patreon.com/Inside the Birds. And then, of course, Adam and I, well, we'll be talking to everybody again Thursday night on Inside the Birds Post Game Live. Catch you on the next one.